could read another chapter. I have some time today. Chapter 16. And that's what I said to myself. I am now on the road to heaven. Suddenly, it became clear to me that there was a lot of teaching for me to do in my lifetime. As I say, I saw Japhie before I left. We wandered sadly to the Chinatown Park, had dinner in Namuen's, came out, sat in the Sunday morning grass, and suddenly here was this group of Negro preachers standing in the grass preaching to desultory groups of uninterested Chinese families, letting their kiddies romp in the grass, and to bums who cared just a little bit more. A big fat woman like Ma Rainey was standing there with her legs out, spread, howling out a tremendous sermon in a booming voice that kept breaking from speech to blues singing music. Beautiful. And the reason why this woman, who was such a great preacher, was not preaching in a church was because every now and then she just simply had to go sploosh and spit as hard as she could off to the side of the grass. And I'm telling you, the Lord will take care of you if you recognize that you have a new field. Yes, and sploosh, she turns and spits about 10 feet away, a great sploosh of spit. See, I told Japhie, she couldn't do that in church. That's her flaw as a preacher as far as the churches are concerned about. But boy, have you ever heard a greater preacher? Yeah, says Japhie, but I don't like all that Jesus stuff she's talking about. What's wrong with Jesus? Didn't Jesus speak of heaven? Isn't heaven Buddha's nirvana? According to your own interpretation, Smith. Japhie, there were things I wanted to tell Rosie, and I felt oppressed by this schism we have about separating Buddhism from Christianity, East from West. What the hell difference does it make? We're all in heaven now, ain't we? Who said so? Is this nirvana we're in now, or ain't it? It's both nirvana and samsara we're in now. Words. What's in a word? Nirvana by any other name. Besides, don't you hear that big old gal calling you and telling you you've got a new field? A new Buddha field, boy? Japhie was so pleased he wrinkled his eyes and smiled. Whole Buddha fields in every direction for each one of us. And Rosie was a flower we let wither. Never spoke more truly, Ray. The big old gal came up to us, too, noticing us, especially me. She called me darling, in fact. I can see from your eyes that you understand every word I'm saying, darling. I want you to know that I want you to go to heaven and be happy. I want you to understand every word I'm saying. I hear and I understand. Across the street was the new Buddhist temple some young Chamber of Commerce Chinatown Chinese were trying to build by themselves. One night I'd come by there and drunk pitched in with them with a wheelbarrow hauling sand from outside in. They were young Sinclair Lewis, idealistic, forward-looking kids who lived in nice homes but put on jeans to come down and work on the church. Like you might expect in some Midwest town, some Midwest kids with a bright-faced Richard Nixon leader. The prairie all around. Here in the heart of tremendously sophisticated little city called San Francisco Chinatown, they were doing the same thing, but their church was the Church of Buddha. Strangely, Japhie wasn't interested in the Buddhism of San Francisco Chinatown because it was traditional Buddhism, not the Zen intellectual artistic Buddhism he loved. But I was trying to make him see that everything was the same. In the restaurant, we'd eaten with chopsticks and enjoyed it. Now he was saying goodbye to me, and I didn't know when I'd see him again. Behind the colored woman was a band preacher who kept rocking with his eyes closed, saying, "That's right," she said to us. "Bless both of you boys for listening to what I have to say. Remember that we know that all things work together for good to them that loves God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." Romans 8:18, youngins. And there's a new field awaiting for you. And be sure you live up to every one of your obligations. Here now? Yes, ma'am. Be seeing you. I said goodbye to Japhie. I spent a few days with Cody's family in the hills. He was tremendously sad about Rosie's suicide and kept saying he had to pray for her night and day at this particular crucial moment, when because she was a suicide, her soul was still floating around the surface of the earth, ready for either purgatory or hell. We got to get her in purgatory, man. So I helped him pray when I slept on his lawn that night in my new sleeping bag. During the days, I took down the little poems his children recited to me in my little breast pocket notebooks. Yoo-hoo, I come to you, boo-hoo, I love you, Blue, blue. The sky is blue. I'm higher than you. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Meanwhile, Cody was saying, don't drink so much of that old wine. Late Monday afternoon, I was at the San Jose yards and waited for the afternoon zipper due in at 4:30. It was its days off. Its day off, so I had to wait for the midnight ghost due in at 7:30. Meanwhile, as soon as it got dark, I cooked my can of macaroni on a little Indian fire of twigs among the deep, dense weeds of the track by the track and ate. The ghost was coming in. A friendly switchman told me I'd better not try to get on it, as there was a yard boy at the crossing with a big flashlight who would see if anybody was riding away on it and would phone ahead of Watsonville to have them thrown off. Now that it's winter, the boys have been breaking into the sealed trucks and breaking windows and leaving bottles on the floor, wrecking that train. I sneaked down to the east end of the yard with heavy packs slung on and caught the ghost as she was coming out beyond the Bulls crossing and opened the sleeping bag and took my shoes off, put them under my wrapped up, balled up coat, and slipped in and slept beautiful joy sleep all the way to Watsonville, where I hid by the weeds till highball. Got on again and slept then all night long, flying down the unbelievable coast of, and oh Buddha, thy moonlight, oh Christ, thy starling on the sea, surf, tangier, gaviota, the train going 80 miles an hour, and me warm as toast in my sleeping bag, flying down and going home for Christmas. In fact, I only woke up at about 7 o'clock in the morning when the train was slowing down into the LA yards, and the first thing I saw, as I was putting my shoes on and getting my stuff ready to jump off, was a yard worker waving at me and yelling, "Welcome to LA!" But I was bound to get out of there fast. The smog was heavy. My eyes were weeping from it. The sun was hot. The air stank. A regular hell is LA. And I had caught a cold from Cody's kids and had that old California virus and felt miserable now. With the water dripping out of refrigerators, I gathered up palmfuls and splashed it on my face and washed my teeth and combed my hair and walked into LA to wait until 7:30 in the evening when I planned to catch a zipper first class freight to Yuma, Arizona. It was a horrible day waiting. I drank coffee in Skid Row coffee houses, South Main Street, coffee and 17 cents. At nightfall, I was lurking around waiting for my train. A bum was sitting in the doorway, watching me with a peculiar interest. I went over to talk to him. He said he was an ex-Marine from Patterson, New Jersey, and after a while, he whipped out a little slip of paper he read sometimes on freight trains. I looked at it. It was a quotation from the Digha Nikaya, the words of Buddha. I smiled. I didn't say anything. He was a great volleyball bum, and a bum who didn't drink. He was an idealistic hobo and said, "That's all there is to it. That's what I like to do. I'd rather hop freights around the country and cook my food out of tin cans over wood fires than be rich and have a home or work. I'm satisfied. I used to have arthritis, you know. I was in the hospital for years. I found out a way to cure it, and then I hit the road and been on it ever since." "How do you cure your arthritis?" "I got phlebitis myself." "You do? Well, this will work for you too. Just stand on your head 3 minutes a day, or maybe 5 minutes. Every morning when I get up, whether it's in a river bottom or right on a train that's rolling along, I put a little mat on the floor and I stand on my head and count to 500. That's about 3 minutes, isn't it?" He was very concerned about the weather. Counting up to 500 made it 3 minutes. About whether counting up to 500 made it 3 minutes. That was strange. I figured he was worried about his arithmetic record in school. "Yeah, about that." "Just do that every day, and your phlebitis will go away like my arthritis did. I'm 40, you know. Also, before you go to bed at night, have hot milk and honey. I always have a little jar of honey." He fished one out from his pack, and I put the milk in a can and the honey and heat it over the fire and drink it. Just those two things. Okay. I vowed to take his advice because he was Buddha. The result was that in about 3 months, my phlebitis disappeared completely and didn't show up ever again, which is amazing. In fact, since that time, I've tried to tell doctors about this, but they seem to think I am crazy. Dharma bum, Dharma bum. I'll never forget that intelligent Jewish ex-Marine bum from Patterson, New Jersey, wherever he was, with his little slip of paper to read in the raw, gone night, by jerking reefer platforms in the nowhere industrial formations of an America that is still magic America. At 7:30, my zipper came in and was being made up by the switchman, and I hid in the weeds to catch it, hiding partly behind a telephone pole. It pulled out, surprisingly fast, I thought, and with my heavy 50-pound rucksack, I ran out and trotted along till I saw an agreeable drawbar and took hold of it and hauled on and climbed straight to the top of the box to have a good look at the whole train and see where my flat car would be. Holy smokes, goddamn, and all ye fallen candles of heaven smash. But as the train picked up tremendous momentum and tore out of that yard, I saw it was a bloody, no good 18-car sealed son of a bitch, and almost 20 miles an hour. It was do or die. Get off or hang on to my life at 80 miles per hour. Impossible on boxcar top. So I had to scramble down the rungs again. But first I had to untangle my strap clip from where it had got caught in the catwalk on top. So by the time I was hanging from the lowest rung, and ready to drop off, we were going too fast now. Slinging in the rucksack and holding it hard in one hand calmly and madly, I stepped off hoping for the best and turned everything away and only staggered a few feet and was safe on the ground. But now I was 3 miles into the industrial jungles of LA, in mad sick sniffling smog night, and had to sleep all that night by a wire fence in the ditch by the tracks, being waked up all night by rackets of Southern Pacific and Santa Fe switchers, belly aching around till fog and clear of midnight, when I breathed better, thinking and praying in my sack. But then more fog and smog again, and horrible damp white cloud of dawn, and my bag too hot to sleep in, and outside too raw to stand. Nothing but horror all night long. Except at dawn, a little bird blessed me. The only thing to do was get out of LA. According to my friend's instructions, I stood on my head, using the wire fence to prevent me from falling over. It made my cold feel a little better. Then I walked to the bus station, through tracks and side streets, and caught a cheap bus 25 miles to Riverside. Cops kept looking at me suspiciously with that big bag on my back. Everything was far away from the easy purity of being with J.P. Ryder in that high rock camp under peaceful singing stars.